Good evening, everyone. I'm doing this video. I'm pretty sure many of you probably already heard of tithing, and some of you probably not. My prayer is that your eyes get opened and you understand what's going on this day. And I want to let it know, anybody who comes to this channel, I want you to know this channel is a learning platform. What I do, I provide you with some information and some verses, but your main job is for you to do the research. I always say it, and I will say it again and exhort you, do not take anything that I say or anybody else says at face value. You always go and do your own research. By you doing the research, go on through the verses by studying, like it says in 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15. It says, study to show thyself approved unto Yahweh, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You always go to your verses, go to the Torah, read your verses. And if you do not have that much wisdom, it says in James chapter 1:5, ask, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask Yahweh, who gives generously to all without finding faults, and it will be given to you. That means you have to want it, and you have to seek him. He's not just gonna boom drop it up to you if you're not looking for him. Like Yahusha said, you will have eyes, you will not see, ears, you will not hear. And he also says, unless my Father in heaven reveal these things to you, you will not be able to understand them. And if Yahweh don't open your eyes, you will not understand anything that I just said in any of my videos if he doesn't open your eyes. And again, for him to open your eyes, you have to be thirsty. You have to want it for you to get it, to receive it. And I understand that at this time there are many who have been awakening. Many of you, Israel have been awakening, that's hearing the word and doing something about it by going back to the old path, going back to our Elohim, Yahweh, to serve him, to leave idols, leave everything else and go back to Yahweh so he will have mercy upon us. And again, I'm not here for you to just listen to what I say. I need you. And I'm pleading that you go and do your research. Take the information and research it. And if you do have questions, I will be more than happy to answer your questions. Just don't come to the channel just to fight or to prove me wrong. It's not doing any of us any good. I don't need you to prove me wrong, and I don't need to prove you wrong. At the end of the day, you will have to answer to Yahweh, like it says in Ecclesiasticus chapter 12:13, which I'm gonna go there at the end. It says you will be answering for everything, whether you did good or evil. You will go to in front of the throne, in front of Yahweh, to answer for your sins, whatever that you've done from yours young to you got old, what have you. You will have to answer for all of them. So it's not about to prove anybody wrong. It's not to talk about Christians bad about them. It's not to down talk anybody. This is just what it is. It is the truth. We spend years and learning the wrong thing. We grew up wrong, outside the Torah. So now Yahweh is opening our eyes, and like I said, I'm just sharing the information. And if it's not for you, just go about your business. Don't bother. And if it's for you, if you think if it's gonna help you, it's something that you need and you can share it, you take it, study, ask Yah to open your eyes, learn it, and you can help somebody else. That's what I'm doing. I was a Christian for years, and it wasn't until 3 years ago that Yahweh opened my eyes, that I'm seeing things, like it says in the Bible, that these are the secret of the Torah. I think it's David that says that these are the secrets. Until Yahweh open your eyes, you can't see them. I spent years of my life paying tithe, and It wasn't until Yahweh opened my eyes. And the sad thing is, the instructions is in our hands. I used to carry the Bible every day. I used to read it, but I never understood what I was reading. I used to have many questions. Instructions was right there, but yet, like he says, Yahusha said, if my Father does not open your eyes, you will not be able to see. I wasn't able to see any of this until he removed the veil from my eyes, until he opened my eyes to see it. And I just want to make another disclaimer. I do not use any titles. So when I'm reading the verses where it says all the titles, God, Lord, what have you, I'm going to use our Father restored name, Yahweh. You know, that's his name, Yah. I may use El Shaddai or El Elyon, but mainly Yahweh. That's his name. And when we come to the New Testament, I will use the restored name of our Savior, Yahusha or Yahushua. That's their name. Understand that. And you already know that already. You cannot translate anybody's name. So anybody who tell you the translation, what have you, they put, this is incorrect. Wherever you travel in this world, whether you French, Hispanic, whatever, however your name is written, they cannot translate your name to their language. They may have difficulty pronouncing your name, or they may pronounce it the way they can pronounce it, but your name never translates. So that's why I start using the restored name. I'm not gonna address my Father in titles. I'm gonna address him by his name. If you know the verse, it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray. If you're gonna pray to Yahweh, if you call, they are called by his name. You say, if you call him by his name as well, you pray to him, address him by his name. He has a name. Address him by his name. So I'm gonna go on, probably straight through it. Again, understand, and I'm not here to bash on Christians. I'm here to show you the truth, what I've learned, and that I've been in the dark for years, that I've used my little hard-earned money, giving it to church, and not understanding the instruction for tithing. I did not understand that. I never understood it. I was thinking, because your pastor just do nothing but lie to you. And what the hypocritical thing I think is very hypocritical of them, that they will tell you, they will quick to tell you that the law is done away with. But it seems that only one law from Moses that they don't want to hear, or Moshe, they seems to keep. Everything else is done away with except tithing. They want to keep the tithe. If the law is done away with, the tithing should be done away with as well. But no, they will tell you, when you talk to them about Shabbat or Sabbath, when you talk to them about anything else, they tell you they're under grace. But when it comes to tithing, they want your money. And there is a pattern, and it's all over. If you do your research, you'll see most churches nowadays, it's all about business. Anybody will open a church just to make that money, to buy big houses, to buy cars, you know, so their family can be well. And I'm not saying that just to say that. I've been to quite a few mega churches, you know, and these pastors, when they get high up there, you who give your little tithe money, they'll tell you, give your last $100, give it, and God will give you 20 times more. They put ATM inside of the church for you to make sure you withdraw the money. They tell you, give all that you have, you're gonna get it 20 times fold. But never they tell you that the tithing has nothing to do with money. Like I said again, if Yahweh don't open your eyes, it's gonna be difficult for you to grasp, to understand anything that I'm saying, or anybody else who's trying to explain it to you. And I do have a few family members, you know, trying to bring the word to them. And sometimes I fail to understand that I cannot make anybody accept what I'm telling you right now. You can only hear it, and it's up to you. When you hear it, whatever you do with it is up to you. And unless Yahweh said, hey, I'm gonna reveal it to you, remove that veil and unclog your ears and your eyes so you can see, I can start talking from now until next year, you will never understand. And it's the same thing happened to some family members. They reject the word. When you tell them that when they're trying to tell them who they are, they laughed. They say, I'm crazy. I hate white people. I hate this. All this nonsense they bring up. That's because, sometimes I'm so excited. And when I'm telling somebody, I'm thinking, I'm expecting to understand. And they don't understand. And I'm forgetting that unless Yahweh open their eyes, they will not be able to grasp, to understand. Just like I didn't get it before, because I've read the tithing. The favorite verse my pastor used to go to is Malachi chapter 3 verse 8. Said, have you robbed God? You rob God. You rob, they make you feel so bad that, the little hard money that you earn, sometimes not even enough to pay your bills. And you just want to be blessed. And one of the first pastors that I've been to, he will tell you that if you don't pay your tithe, you're not gonna make it to heaven. And this kind of put a fear in your heart. If you don't pay the tithe, when you seek, God is not gonna hear your prayer. And when you don't pay your tithe, you don't do this, you can forget about heaven. You're not gonna get no blessing. You're gonna be poor for the rest of your life. And with that, it happened is that, these pastors, they prey on the ignorance of the people. They preyed on my ignorance when I, didn't have the understanding. All of this happened. And some of them, I don't want to doubt that they may know, they probably know, but the greed of money, and it's who they choose to be their Elohim. You understand? Some people, money is their Elohim. Money is the only one they see. You may see somebody who become a pastor. When you think the motive of them to help people, it's not at all. The motive is how much can I get in my pocket? How much, what's the biggest houses I can get, or the biggest house, car I can buy. Just to show the bling bling, what have you. And a lot of them, and when they get to that level, they start getting that money, you can't even come close to them. They have so many bodyguards protecting them. You know what I'm saying? And when you, who give you a little money, I used to witness that when you become in need, they don't rush to help you. You have to fill out 10,000 forms in order for you to get a little food, because you're in a situation that you can't help yourself. But when you were paying the tithe, you didn't fill out no form. All you give, just bring it. You're gonna get checking it. They give all the lies to you so you can just grasp onto it. But enough. I don't want to keep rambling about all this thing, but just to show you the ignorance that when you don't know, people will take that, and take advantage of you for that. And I got taken advantage of, and and like I said, until 3 years ago, Yahweh opened my eyes, and I'm like, wow, I wish I knew that many years ago. And some people, I remember probably not too long ago, I kind of mentioned to a family member, and how some people, they just want to resent you, just because. And they say, oh, I'm still gonna do it. But not that they're really seeking, but they're just gonna show me I'm still gonna pay. But you're not hurting me. It's your money you're giving. So when you're trying to help people who's still locked up in the blind and the eyes not open, it's just a waste of time. But like I say, if you come, my reason of doing this is to help people. And not only that, it's just like I say, it's a learning platform. When you come, don't just take what I'm saying. You have to read it in order for you to understand it. When I first heard it, I didn't just sit on it and just take it. I got into my word, and what I couldn't understand, I said, Yahweh, please help me. Help me see what so and so see, because I'm not seeing it. Then he helped me see it. That soon when I start reading the verses and it start coming up, to mind, I'm like, oh, so that's exactly what it is. When you go to verses, that's what it says in Isaiah 28 verse 9 and 10, it says it's precepts upon precepts, precepts upon precepts, here a little, there a little. So when you study, we never got that when they say precept upon precept. So you have to take a little verse here the precepts after precept, here a little, there a little. So that's the best way to study. And when an information given to you, always research, go after it. But to go on, the tithe, like I say, pastors will lie to you. The first thing they break is the commandment. Number 9, they lie. They tell you stories so you can fear. And another thing pastors do, the majority of them, they don't want you to understand. Because imagine if a pastor was truly going through the commandments, if they had the understanding or have the understanding to really tell you, to teach you the Torah the way you're supposed to know it. Now, they could not come to you and tell you that, you have to pay tithe. Then you're going to have a rebuttal. You will question them that, knowing that the tithe was not for them. So for those of you who already know who you are, there was 12 sons, the 12th tribe, the 12 sons of Jacob becomes 12 tribes of the Asherah. So what happened is, in that 12th tribe, Levites were the one that chosen. They were chosen to do service for Yahweh. And Yahweh clearly tell them that you have no inheritance on the promise that I promised Abram. Yitzhak and Yahshua said, you will own this land. So they didn't have any inheritance, because Yahweh say, I am your inheritance. For that reason, Yahweh say the 10% of their tithing, which is not money, pastor tell you, will be for you, for the service that you do for your family. But it also went further, not only for them, but for the fatherless, the widow, the poor, and the stranger that is at their gate. This is for who the tithing for. And many pastors, when you cannot ask them questions. You either email it, especially for the mega church. You cannot stand in the church to ask questions, because then you're not allowed to do that. And the only pastor that was able to send and ask questions, sometimes he'll tell me to put salt on it. He doesn't know the answer, so he told me to put salt on it, but never answer the question. So it's just like you get tossed to and fro, and you never really get a straight answer. But you who's trying to get blessed, especially for those who are in need, you want to be blessed because you're tired of being at the bottom. You're tired of being poor. You're tired of being broke. Like, just over broke, you work, you can never get anywhere. Like they say, robbing Peter to pay Paul. But never they explain to us that the reason we are where we are at the bottom of the barrel, is because we transgress Yahweh's commandments. It's because we're not keeping the Torah. That's why you are at the bottom. They never really go to the meat of the problem, the core of the problem. They never go to it, as far as to telling you in Deuteronomy chapter 28. And first of all, the pastors don't even know who they are. Many of them, of the Israelite pastors, they don't know who they are. The majority of them. Because I remember my pastor used to tell me that we are the Gentiles. You know what I'm saying? He's telling me that we black folks are the Gentiles, and the Jews over there, and currently they are the true, descendant of, Abram. So we didn't understand that. For knowing that you're the Gentile, you always think yourself, okay, you're at the bottom of the barrel, you're at, Yah's mercy. But we all are under Yah's mercy. But, they don't really go to the core to say, in order, whether you Gentiles, whether you Yahshua born, whether you're the other nation, him, what have you. For you to be successful, and I know some people, have money out there, the stars that they have, but they sell their soul to the devil. But for you to really live a good life, especially the children of Yahshua, your punishment is 20 times more than the other nation, because you should know to keep the commandment, because he said he'll punish you 20 times more than anybody else. You know what I'm saying? So in order for us to be coming from the bottom of the barrel, the children of Yahshua, you have to keep the commandments. The law is not done away for anybody. If you want to be blessed, if you want to be at Yahweh's presence, you need to keep the law. You need to keep the commandment and keeping the ordinance, the statutes. You need to keep them, all the feast days, and you need to be set apart. You need to separate yourself from the world. It says you are in the world, but you're not. You are of the world, but you're not. You are of the world, but you're not in the world. Therefore, you cannot follow what the heathens or the Gentiles are doing. You cannot celebrate the holidays. A lot of things you have to separate yourselves. Yes, transition is not easy, but this is what they need to teach you. Because at church, I never remember my pastor talking about circumcision. I don't remember him talking about, the Sabbath, that you have to keep the Sabbath. I don't remember him, talking about any of the feast days that's in Leviticus. Matter of fact, we follow everything, the Thanksgiving, New Year's, Christmas, everything else we follow except what's in the Torah. They never teach that to us. So therefore, like I said, they will tell you the law is done, or they told us the law is done away, but the tithe, they kept that. They never really tell you or even give you the, I never really get a good understanding when they preach about tithe. All I know that you had to pay it, and I've read so many verses and I still couldn't grasp it, like I said. So I think I've done enough talking. I'm just gonna go to it. Like I said, some of you may already know about the tithing and some of you don't. And the first place I'm gonna go is gonna be Numbers chapter 18. I'm gonna read verse 8, and then I'm gonna go down to verse 20. And it says, "And Yahuwah spoke unto Aaron, Behold, I also giving you the charge of my heave offerings of all the hallowed things of the children of Yahshua. Unto you have I given them by reason of the anointing, and to your sons by an ordinance forever." So you see that Yahweh tell him he chose them and giving them the hallowed things, and it's an ordinance forever. Now, which means the tithe that's gonna be receiving, it's an ordinance forever. Although, like I said, we're in the land of captivities, we're scattered to Judah, and of course the rest of the tribes, they're down in Africa. There may be some around here, but we don't know who the Levites, but they're not doing any services for Yahweh now. So therefore, you having the tithing, you cannot give it to a Judah or any of the other tribes. You cannot give it to them. And Gentiles cannot pick up that tithe because it was not for them. Yahweh is a Yah of order. His law doesn't change. He didn't change that contract. It didn't change. And even people will say, oh, it was not mentioned in the New Testament. Yes, it was in the New Testament that they were paying food tithe to the Levites, which they were still there. But as far as us right now, we don't have any Levites offering any sacrifice in the service for Yahweh right now that we will take the tithe to. So what I advise you, it's not that you can still pay the tithe. The widow that some of them have kids they can't afford to pay. That single mom that's struggling to pay. And the poor in the street, you can pay your tithe to them. And what I was explaining into somebody else, you do not need to take your money, your 10% to a pastor to help someone else. You don't need to give them money. You don't need to bring your money. You can do that yourself. If Yahweh bless you enough, you can take 10% out of what you have to help the fatherless, to help a widow, to help the poor. By all means, you do it. You don't need to go give it to somebody. Like I said, when those people take your tithe, they don't do what they say with it. They pocket that money to themselves. And first of all, for me not to forget to mention that, first of all, you don't need to be in church anyways. Church is not that they are serving the idol JC. So you shouldn't be in church, period, giving tithes to anybody. Save yourself. Stay away from church. Yahweh already giving you all the instructions that you need in your Bible, from Genesis to Deuteronomy. This is a Torah that you need to learn. And if you're not understanding it, It tells you in James chapter 1, you can ask him. He will give you understanding. So I wouldn't advise you to go to church. If you were, you need to quit, because they're not teaching you anything. You know what I'm saying? They're not helping you. First of all, the first commandment says, you shall not have no other Elohim before Yahweh Elohim. What are you worshiping when you go to church? It's JC, Jesus. He's an idol. You don't need to serve any idol. Jah said he's a jealous Elohim. You know, you should not have any graven image, the cross. All these things you need to stay away from. You don't need to be among them. The commandments, it's not supposed to be. You don't need to go sit in front of somebody to tell you you're not supposed to be stealing, or somebody to tell you you need to keep the Shabbat. It's supposed to be a custom for you. It's a culture for you. That's something that he says in Deuteronomy chapter 12. It says chapter 6. It says to write it, to write it on the frontlets of your eyes, on your right hand. The commandment is supposed to be posted inside your house, on your door, outside your door, and at your gate. He said to post the commandment so you can know it. When you raise your children, when you're sitting at the table eating, you're supposed to tell them about the commandments. Talk to your children. That's how you raise them, so they know that you don't have to go sit in front of somebody every, first day of the week, which they so-called say seventh day, to lie to you and not even teaching you the word of truth. They're teaching you the word of lies. So you don't need to be there to sit and listen to somebody lying to you, while you could stay home and learn this on your own. Like I said, you don't have understanding, you ask Yah for understanding. He will give it to you. So you don't need somebody to lie to you. You don't need to get in your car to go listen to somebody telling you truth, not only telling you to worship other Elohim, when Yahweh say you shall not have no other Elohim before me. And first of all, they give you a white man that was never your savior. I don't want to get to another subject. So this is all a reason for you not to be in church. This is a reason for you not to even step foot in church. This is the reason you don't need to give your money to somebody to help somebody else. First of all, the second greatest commandment, it says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So if you love your neighbor, your fellow Yashrual who's struggling, that person next door that needs, the help. She has 3-4 kids. Daddy's not around. You can be a mentor to those children. You do it. You can help her with the bills. You do that. Give that 10% to that person. Give it to them, not your pastor, but to them. And like I said, you don't need people to teach you. Like I said, the only person you need to open your eyes is Yahweh. Like Yahweh said, he will open your eyes, unless he open your eyes, reveal the secret of the Torah to you, you're not going to be able to understand. So you don't need to be in church. If you used to go to church, you pray about it, just stop going worshiping idols. It's not helping you in any ways. You can pick up like I say, the Torah from Genesis to Deuteronomy. You need to be on that. You can read a chapter a day. Write your notes, what you need to understand, what you don't understand. Bring it to Yahweh. He will open your eyes. He will let you see the secrets. He will open your eyes so you'll be able to see it. Don't, like I said, run from church. Run. But to go on with the tithing, I just read verse 8 where it says that Yahweh spoke to Aaron, and he told him he's giving him charge of the heave offerings of all the hollow things of the children of Yashua. And it says, unto thee have I given thee by reason the anointing, and by to thy sons, and by an ordinance forever. Like I said, you got to read this chapter, the whole chapter, on your own. I'm just skipping some verses. It's just to show you the point that you can see. So we're going to jump to verse 20. And it says, and Yahweh spoke unto Aaron. It says, thou shalt have no inheritance in their land. Remember, I was talking about the inheritance they don't have in the land. So you remember the land that Yahweh promised Abram that his seed's gonna have. He said, look over, you're gonna see this is all the land I'm gonna give to your seed. It says, the Levites, he said, thou shalt have no inheritance in their land, neither shalt thou have any part among them. It says, I am thy part and thy inheritance among the children of Yashual. He says, I am that one. I am your portion. I'm your inheritance. And verse 21, it says, and behold, I have given the children of Levi all the what? The 10th in Yashual of an inheritance for their service which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. So when your pastor is telling you to pay tithe, he will have to prove to you that he's a Levite for him to receive that. Remember, that's an ordinance forever. He's not supposed to be picking up tithes from you. First of all, you're not a Levite. You shouldn't be collecting tithe from anybody. You are Gentiles. You're not supposed to be collecting tithe, because that was not a contract, a covenant for you. It was a covenant for the Levite. If you're not Levite, you don't need tithes. Since the law is done away with, you shouldn't be asking tithes anyways, because the law is done away with for you, you know. So verse 22, it says, neither must the children of Yashual henceforth come nigh the tabernacle of the congregation, lest they bear sin and die. So that's why it says he chose the Levites. They will do the service for Yahweh. Only the Levites are able to go in. Nobody else, just the Levites, you know. Verse 23, it says, but the Levites shall do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall bear their iniquity. Remember, I told you that they bear the iniquity, the sins of the Israelites. Anything, they have to offer the sacrifices. They were the only one chosen to do that. Yehuda couldn't do that. Dan couldn't do that. Joseph couldn't do that. Only Levites were able to do sacrifices for sin. And if you read in the Torah, and it tells you when they have an issue, anybody who's sick, who have a spot or leprosy, they go to the Levites, the priests. They the one you had to go to. So in verse 24, but the tithe of the children of Yashual, which they offer as a heave offering unto Yahweh, I have given to the Levites to inherit. You hear that? I have given to the Levites to inherit. So it's just the Levites. It says, therefore, I have said unto you, among the children of Yashual, they shall have no inheritance. He repeat that again. And if you go down to verse 25, it says, and Yahweh spoke unto Moses, saying, thus speak unto the Levites, and say unto them, when he take of the children of Yashual the tithes which I have given you from them for your inheritance, then he shall offer up a heave offering of it to Yahweh, even a 10th part of the tithe. They have to do that. Let's see. And let's continue down. It talks to you about the offering, how they have to do it unto Yahweh. But I'm just going to go to, like I say, I'm not going to go read all. This is your job for you to go read all of it. I'm just giving you portion by portion. You write the verses down, listen to it over and over, and go to it and do your study. So now we're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 14. And we're going to start in verse 22. It says, thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed, that the field bringeth forth year by year. You see what it says? Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seeds, that the field brings forth year by year. It didn't say money. It's what your field brings forth. And verse 23 says, and thou shalt eat before Yahweh Elohim in the place which he shall choose to place his name there, the tithe of thy corn. It's not money. The tithe of thy wine, where it says money, and of thine oil, and the firstling of thy herds and thy flocks. It's not money. It's food. It says that thou mayest learn to fear who? Yahweh Elohim always. That was an ordinance that we were required to pay the tithes to the Levites. And when he chooses the place for you to be there, you have to bring that 10% with you. If we read along, he's going to tell you. And it says, if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it. It shouldn't be a problem carrying money. Those who tell you the tithe is 40 to 10% of your money, to carry it. It says, or if the place be too far for thee, you know, which Yahweh Elohim shall choose to set his name there. Then when Yahweh Elohim have blessed thee, verse 25 says, then shall thou turn it into what? Money. Which means if you had herds, you was going to give 10% of your herds or your vegetables, what have you, whatever your crop was. You will sell that and bring the money with you and bind up the money in thy hand, and it shall go up in the place which Yahweh Elohim shall choose. So if it was already money, you don't need to sell money to get money. So when it says you're gonna eat, so which means you're gonna put the money on the table and eat. You understand? So tithes have nothing to do with money. It's food. And tithe was not a contract, a covenant for any other of the tribes or Gentiles. It was just for the Levites alone. That's who the tithe for. In verse 26 it says, and thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusted after. Okay, you're gonna bestow it after whatever your soul lust after, for oxen, for sheep, for wine, for strong drinks, and for whatsoever that soul desires. So when you get to the place Yahweh chose, you will use that money. If you couldn't bring your tithe, your herd with you, you sell it, you have that money. So you will bestow it on whatever your heart desire to eat. And thou shalt eat there before Yahweh Elohim, and thou shalt rejoice, thy and thy household, you and your family. So can you imagine you and your family put money on the table, eat money? No. So when your pastors need to pay tithe, they bring this verse to them. First of all, you shouldn't be, like I say, you shouldn't be going to church. If you started, quit it, you know. And like I say, I'm saying that, but you know, it's gonna, the decision's up to you regardless. You know, I may tell you that, you probably still won't believe until Yahweh open your eyes. So I pray that you get that. Stop giving the pastors your hard-earned money. It's your money. It's the tithe. You don't need to give it to a man to go help you. First of all, it says, do not let the left hand know what the right hand done. If you help one of your fellow brothers, whether a widow or an orphan or a fatherless or poor, you don't need to know. Nobody else needs to know who you helped. You don't need to give your money to somebody to go help somebody because you have 2 feet and hands. You can't do that unless you completely unable to. You have to tell somebody to get my 10% to someone, but you shouldn't be giving it to a guy who's gonna take your money, buy what he needs, and go to Publix, you know, which most non-profit organization can do. They go to Publix, the food, they have some bread. I mean, I worked with them. They got the leftover what that they don't sell, they will give it, and sometimes those bread are, you know, they bad. You know, those canned food that expired. That's what I mean. I used to see it and I didn't like it. And it says when you're giving your tithe, it has to be the best of the fruit, the best of the herds, not no lamb, not the one with blind one, because Yahweh don't like that. When he said to give the Levites something, the 10%, this is all they have. You give them the best of your crop, the best of your herd. So if you're gonna help a poor person, don't give him leftover or food in your cupboard that you don't need. Don't give him food in your cupboard that's expired. You get them fresh food. You get them fresh food, what you would eat. Love your neighbor as you love thyself. Don't give him anything expired, anything going bad. Oh, let me give it to them since they poor. No, Yahweh don't like that. The angels already dealt you. He'll not be happy with you for that. It's better off you don't give it than you go give him something that's bad. You know, and chapter 26 says, and thou shalt bestow thy money for whatsoever thy soul lusted after, for oxen and for sheep, for wines, for strong drink, and whatsoever thy soul desireth, and thou shalt eat therefore before Yahweh Elohim, and thou shalt rejoice, thou and thy household. And it says, in the Levites that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, because it's a contract, you know, covenant. You have to give him that 10%. Don't forget them. For he hath no part, no inheritance with thee. It says, and at the end of the years, thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. You know, and what it says in verse 29, it says, and the Levites, because they have no parts nor inheritance with thee, and the strangers, and the fatherless, and the widow, and which are within thy gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied. That Yahweh Elohim may bless thee in all thy work, in thy hand which thou doest. So you read it there with your own two eyes. And some of them probably say, oh no, the tithe is not money. It doesn't say it in New Testament. Yes, there are quite a few verses that say. Luke 11 says that. I'm just going to read Matthew 23 says what Yahusha said to the Pharisees about them bringing their tithe of what? Food, not money, food. And verse 23 says, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Who does it sound like? For he paid tithe of mint and anise of cumin, and have omitted the weightiest matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought he have done, and not leave the other undone. So it's just to show you what he's talking about. The tithe of what meant honest, it's just food. It has nothing to do with money. And if you still want to honor the commandments, you still want to honor the tithe paying, you don't need to give it to a man that's going to take your money and buy him big houses. You can do the deed yourself. He says to put it at your gate. The next person next door struggling, you shouldn't take a second. You shouldn't think twice about giving them that tithe because they're in need of it. That orphan, that young man that don't have a father, or whether he's in jail, what have you, he needs a father. He needs shoes for school, whatever his lack of. You can do it, you do it. You don't wait, you do it. This is the tithe you can give to them because it's part of them. You mentioned them. And then the tithe, you can give him part of that tithe as well. You know what I'm saying? So you don't need to wait or somebody to tell you, you do it. They are the one you give the tithe to. Like I say, get out of religion, run for your life. And if you're still not understanding, you can always get on your knees and ask Yahweh to let me see what this person see. Give me the understanding. But like I say, you have to want it. Yahweh's not gonna just open your eyes, boom, just because you hear it, but you have to want him. You have to thirst for him, for him to give it to you. Otherwise just forget it. And I have other verses here, and Nehemiah chapter 10:37 is a good one. It says, we will also bring the first of our dough. It's to show it's not food, our contribution, the fruit of every tree, a new wine and oil to the priests at the chamber of the house of Yahweh, and the tithe of our ground to the Levites. You hear it? The tithe of our ground to the Levites. For the Levites are they who receive what? The tithe and all the rural towns. You hear it? The Levites, they're the one who receive the tithe. And the Levites, most likely the one who share the tithe, who distribute the tithes to the widow, the fatherless. You know what I'm saying? So we have many other verses here that I have, and it still talk about contribution of the tithe, which is food, not money, food. And who gets the tithe? Levites. The motherless, the fatherless, the poor, the strangers that is at your gate. That's at your gate. You give it to them. When they mean by strangers, the people of the other nations who's in need, you help them if you can. You have the means, give them the tithes. Don't give it to your pastors buying big airplanes, big this, lying to you, telling you you're gonna be getting check in the mail, this and that. These people, they're worshiping idols. You shouldn't be in the church. You shouldn't be worshiping JC. JC didn't die for nobody. Yahushua Mashiach is the one who died for you. And Revelation chapter 1 verse 14 to 15 tell you who Yahushua Mashiach was. He was a Negro, not a white man. And if you have a Zondervan compact dictionary, I recommend you look for it. You have one. Look for the 3 sons of Noah. It tells you with verses. I may do a little video on that, but like I say, Yahweh have to open your eyes. You need to pray and ask him to show you these things, because the Bible is not easily understood. That's why many of Christians took Paul's letters backwards. They don't understand it, but they lose themselves. It will take them to their own perdition, like Peter said in 1 Peter chapter 3. They misunderstand Paul's letters. So that's why they preach their own thing out of ignorance, you know. And with you not knowing the word, they will prey on your ignorance and they will take all your little money. So I hope I helped you. And there are many other verses too. We got Nehemiah chapter 13 verse 5. It talks about that also, the grain of offering. Let me just read it real quick. It says, had prepared a large room for him, where formerly they put what? The grain offering, the frankincense, the utensils, and all the tithes of grain, wine, and oil prescribed to, for who? The Levites, the singers, and the gatekeepers, and the contributions for the priests. If you're not a priest, you're not Levites, you don't collect tithes. And what you give is food, not money. Food, not money. And it also, in Nehemiah chapter 13, same chapter, read the whole chapter. I just read Matthew 27, and Amos chapter 4 verse 5 talk about that as well. And you have Deuteronomy chapter 26 speak about that, you know, paying the tithes of your increase on the third year, the year of tithing. And they also use that trick, the Jubilee year. They tell you to bring your money. It's Jubilee year. You're gonna be paid. Them demons, you know, they will suck. They're like vampires. They'll suck the life out of you. But if you don't know, you don't know. You're just gonna keep doing it out of ignorance. But you can get out of ignorance praying to Yahweh. James chapter 1:5 says, I'm going to read it again. If any of you what? Lack of wisdom, you should ask Yahweh. He gives generously to all without finding fault. So he's not going to look upon your sins, the nonsense that you've been doing. He will bless you with it. If you're sincerely looking for Yahweh, he will bless you. He will give it to you without question. He will give you the understanding as long as you're thirsty and want to know. You want to become set apart. You want to serve him truly in your heart. He will give that to you. And you have Luke 18:12. You know, all talk about tithing. You know, I've just read Deuteronomy chapter 14, but I say go to read the whole chapter. You have Deuteronomy chapter 12. You know, they shall bring the burnt offerings. It's all about tithing. You know, you have Deuteronomy 12. Just read the whole chapter. You know, Numbers 18. We read that. Read the whole chapter. Exodus talk about it. But the main important, you know, Numbers 18 and Deuteronomy 14 tell you what the tithes are, the food, and who it is for. You know, and it's a covenant that was cut with who? The Levites, Aaron and his seeds. Aaron was a Levite. Moses was a Levite. It's for their seeds after them, and it's forever. Not for Yehuda, not for Joseph, not for Dan, not for Gentiles. Levites, they're the one that the tithes was reserved for, because they have no inheritance, and the tithe is food for them to eat. You know, food, not money, not for Gentiles. And don't listen to anybody that tell you otherwise. And like I said, you have to read, search the scriptures for yourself. It's the best way to understand it, by you reading it over and over. And my advice is go through the book of the Torah. This is your instructions in order for you to be in the presence of Yahweh. From Genesis to Deuteronomy, read one chapter at a time. Ask Yah to open your eyes. It tells you everything that you need to know. The Torah tells you everything that you need to know. And you don't need again to go to a church, to sit in a congregation in front of men to tell you not to steal, not to lie, not to commit adultery, you know, to honor your parents. You don't need a man to tell you that daily. This is like it's a custom. The reason why it's so hard, you know, we cling is because it says do not follow the customs of the heathens. You know, since our ancestors sinned and we've been scattered around the earth, we not learned the way of the heathens. And now you need to redeem yourself. Retract back, move away, leave the heathens alone, leave the other nations alone, go back to the old path. Go back to the commandments, the Torah. Read it. Ask Yah to open your eyes. If you want to be part of the remnant, though. If you want to be part of that remnant that Yahweh is coming for, you search Yahweh. Whether you are Gentiles, whether you are Yahshua born, whoever you are. If you want to be saved, you know, go back to the Torah. Follow the instructions of the Torah. Come out of her, my people. Come out of idolatry. Come out of worshiping idols. JC, Jesus Christ, come out of her. Remove yourself so you don't partake in the plague that is coming for them. Remove yourself. You know what I'm saying? Seek Yahweh with all your heart. And that verse I was talking about, I think it's Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. This is what it reads. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim and guard his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For Elohim shall bring every work into judgment with every secret things, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So you're gonna come. You have to go to the judgment seat. So make sure. And you can't say you didn't hear this information. I'm not scaring you, but everything has been written. If you watch this video, you heard about it. If you don't seek Yahweh, it's up to you. Like I said, I'm not telling you to take it. I'm not going to say you have to accept it. It's up to you. Whatever decision you take after you hear this video, it's up to you. But I pray that Yahweh help you. I pray that Yahweh have mercy on your soul. I pray that he open your eyes so you can seek more from, not only for the tithing, but to come out of it, come out of religion, come out of idolatry. Stop worshiping idols. Come out of that. Go back to the old path, the commandments, the Torah, the instructions that Yahweh gave us. This is your culture. You know, go back to your culture. Go back to the old ways. Like it says, that I was reading Maccabee. It says you should be zealous for the Torah, this covenant, the covenant of our fathers. We should not, it says, do not let this commandment depart from your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Do not let it depart. Keep the commandments. Everywhere you read, it's telling you to keep the commandments. Yahweh said, if you love me, keep what? My commandments. These commandments, they're important. That's what's gonna take, that's what's gonna help you. If you want to be in the presence of Yahweh, you need to keep your commandments, you know. And not, the commandment is not done away with. You need to keep the commandments in order for you to be saved. And the commandment is what converts you. Nobody can convert you unless you keep the commandments. That's what's gonna change you. You start keeping the Torah, you start going according to the Torah, people will see the changes in you. You're gonna start wearing your fringes. You're gonna start keeping the Shabbat. You will know if you used to steal, you're not gonna steal. You're gonna honor your parents. You know, you're gonna walk accordingly. You're gonna love your neighbors as you love yourself. All these things you're gonna start following. Wearing the right clothes. You know what I'm saying? All these things you're gonna do it when you keep the commandments, and Yah will bless you. And I hope I helped you. And with this note, I say shalom. I hope I give you enough verses. Like I said, if you have questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Thank you.